Welcome back to the Campus Edge. I'm Ed Bailey.
And I'm Karen Garza. So Ed, what's the name of this episode?
Oh man, I totally forgot. Maybe if we look through the packages, we can remember.
Okay, we have a piece about our Wichita DJs and their stories, and the Wichita Women's Fair.
We've got one about the Augusta Historical Theater, and another about how college students balance school and work.
That's not really anything coming to mind, is there?
Maybe it'll come to us later during this exciting episode of
The Campus Edge. So Ed, given your life experience, you must know a thing or two about balancing school and work, right?
What are you talking about? I'm only 19.
I mean, yeah, I totally knew that.
Why are you having trouble with that?
Yeah, a bit.
Well, how about we watch Tyler Morgan's video over college advice?
Sounds like a plan.
I'm Campus Edge reporter Tyler Morgan. I know college life can be hard, especially with becoming independent, working low-income jobs, and trying to find room to do everything. I know I've had trouble with it this past year as well, so here's some advice on how to deal with it all. First off is to spread out the amount of work that you need to do. This strategy is used to mainly reduce the amount of stress in your mind. You can be overwhelmed with all the things that are needed to be done, when in reality you only have to do 2 things that day in order to be caught up. Also, when spreading out the workload, try to prioritize the things that have you stressed out the most or the things that have a closer due date. Secondly, set a day where you have nothing to do at all except leisure time. This day can be used to keep your mind stress-free by going to the movies, going on a road trip, or even going to a new restaurant. One thing to keep in mind is to make sure that you reward yourself with every task completed. This way it seems more tempting to complete a task rather than procrastinate. For example, every time you finish a page of your research paper, you can get up and get a snack. Don't start another page until you finish that snack. The snack advice only works if you're a little chubby, like me. Lastly, stay at your parents' house during the weekend every once in a while. This may seem like obvious advice, but everyone needs a break from this new stage of life of being independent. This day can also give you needed advice from your parents because they can give you solutions to everyday adult problems that you may be dealing with that are new to you, because they've been there too. Well, hopefully my advice actually helped you, because I know college life can be mind-blowingly stressful. This is Tyler Morgan with Campus Edge, signing off.
Well, now I feel more informed and organized. And speaking of organized, I need to get my March Madness bracket organized. I've got Butler going all the way. Oh, wait. Butler is a community college. I'd better let that sink in a bit as we watch Ryan Sherman's piece on March Madness.
Campus Edge reporter Ryan Sherman here, located out of Tad's Locker Room at 9747 21st Street in Wichita. This piece is all about what puts the madness in March Madness. I've got some interviews from some kids on campus about their bracket picks, who their favorite players are, their favorite teams. I've even got a telephone interview with Mick Schaefer, and we're going to go inside and talk about some merchandise stuff. So let's get right to the madness, guys. All right, I have here Keaton McGuire, Butler student and track star. Do you see an increase in NCAA men's basketball attire during this time of year?
This is probably the busiest time of the year. Summers are slow, but once basketball season comes around, it gets wild.
What teams do you think you sell the most merchandise for?
Probably WSU, since there's so many WSU fans around the area. And then probably KU. That's probably the second most.
I went to the local apartment complex called the Villas where most Butler students live. Here's who I found.
My name is Keenan Westerman.
Brandon Doramus.
Jake Batman.
What team will you be rooting for this year during March Madness?
KU all day.
That's a tough one. I'm just a fan of the game, and I'm down home Kansas boy, so I'll probably be going for those Jayhawks.
If K-State doesn't make it, which I'm hoping they are, it'd be a slim chance. But I'll root for anybody who's playing KU, and I might be rooting for Wichita State because they're another Kansas team.
What exactly do you think puts the madness in March Madness?
Just the fact that anybody can beat anybody and there's upsets every single day.
Well, Forrest Gump once said, life is like a box of chocolates, and you never know what you're going to get. And the same thing goes with March Madness, These 16 seeds, I pray to God one day they'll beat a 1 seed, but who knows, Everybody's losing, everybody's winning, It's just crazy. Anything's possible, like Kevin Garnett said.
Just upsets, and you never really know what you're going to get.
What exactly do you think will make your team go far this March Madness?
Well, March Madness is usually led by good guard play, and KU has the 2 best guards in the entire country, so I think that Frank Mason and Devontae Graham will lead us to a title.
A lot of it's going to be their seeding. They don't really play a lot of tough competition, so they're going to have a really good game, I think. They have Frank Camp that'll help out. He's been doing a lot better with his threes and shooting, so he'll have to play really well, and then the whole team will have to play really well to beat some of those teams in the tournament.
Since you're such a big fan of the Kansas Jayhawks, can you demonstrate how to wave your wheat?
Definitely.
I don't want to talk about it.
Do you know if WSU has any crowd dances that they do together during the games?
I know they got like the Woo Shock, but I think the Wabash is where it's at. Shocker fans should really step it up.
Hi, Mr. Schaefer. Glad to have you with us here on the Campus Edge.
Yeah, good to be here. Thanks very much. Yeah, I've been working in the television sports industry for, almost 19 years now, working in Topeka, Wichita, and in Kansas City. It's a lot of fun.
I've been asking people on campus who their favorite teams and which teams they think will go far in the postseason play. Can you tell us a few secret weapons or advantages each team has, as well as anything that might hinder them or be their downfall in postseason play?
I like Kansas for a lot of reasons. Obviously, they're very talented. They don't have a whole lot of depth, but they have proven so far this season with only 3 losses that hasn't really been a problem. They have maybe the best player in college basketball in Frank Mason and a lottery pick in Josh Jackson. So when you have those 2 out on the floor, you're going to have a chance in any game you play. Wichita State, I've seen a little bit less, but I think the best thing they have going for them is that Greg Marshall and a lot of those guys have been there and done that before. They know how to win, and going through that process is so big, and just getting that sort of experience is so valuable once it comes time for the NCAA tournament, because there are going to be many teams there that have not been there before and won't know how it goes, and that'll be to their detriment. So I like both those teams. Heck, they could both end up going to Tulsa and might, who knows, end up playing each other in one of the rounds of the tournament. I think there's a really good Big 12 this year. And so you look at teams like West Virginia, who presses you up and down the court. You look at Baylor, tremendous zone defense that they employ. They are dangerous as well. And then Iowa State is really catching fire right now. They've got 12 Big 12 wins, a team that anybody on the court can hit a 3 at all times. And so they're dangerous in tournament play. One of the hottest teams in the country, Oklahoma State right now, who barely lost to Iowa State recently. They're playing good basketball. They'll be like a 6, a 7, or an 8 seed, and they'll be dangerous. They could be one of those Cinderella teams come March.
All right, guys, there you have it. I hope everybody has a great spring break and that everyone's brackets are at least 85%. Cheer loud for your teams. I think you all know who I'll be rooting for. Signing off, this has been Campus Edge reporter Ryan Sherman.
Man, that was exciting, informative, and timely.
So, do you feel more informed?
Definitely. I've got a couple of ideas to stay more organized.
Wish we could have seen that before we forgot today's theme.
Don't lose hope, Ed. There's still time.
Yeah, I know. Hey, speaking of time, have you ever heard of the Augusta Historical Theater?
No. What's that?
Well, I could explain it to you, but how about I throw it over to our very own Madison Hutchinson to explain more about it?
That would be great. Roll the package.
Welcome to the Augusta Historic Theater, the architectural and cultural centerpiece of our community. Help keep the theater alive. Enjoy our movies, plays, special events, and our well-priced concessions. Remember, every penny you spend helps to preserve and restore the theater.
The theater was built in 1935 at a cost of around $70,000. It has been was closed in 1985 and stayed closed until 1989, and then the Augusta Arts Council acquired the theater and started showing movies in it at that time. Well, it was built as a movie theater, and so we continue to try to show movies, first-run movies, and but we also want it to be multi-purpose, and we have a wide variety of programming that does go on here. We've had everything from live concerts to school affairs, and a wide variety of we've had a wedding, and so we have a wide variety of activities that take place here. Again, based on my background, it has to be the architecture. It is very unique. It's very special. There's nothing quite like it throughout the state. The light fixtures are unique for this theater. They don't exist anyplace else in the world. When it was put on the National Register, one of the claim to fames was that it was entirely first theater in the world to be entirely lit by neon, and the State Historical Society couldn't disprove that, so they said good enough, and so we're very proud of the things that it has as far as architectural features. Well, I think just in general that if you want to go to the movies and you want to experience the movies in an old-time fashion, or like movies were when they were in their prime, then this is a good place to experience that. You walk in the door, you smell the popcorn, and there's a lot of people are happy and a lot of activity. And it's just a fun place to be on the weekend.
So stop watching movies at home and go enjoy them at the Augusta Historical Theater. I'm Madison Hutchinson with BCTV 20. Thanks for watching.
Wow, that's pretty cool.
Right? I just went there the other day and it was amazing. I'm always looking for cool, exciting things to do around the area.
Really? Well, if you're looking for something exciting to do, all you have to do is watch Jenny Gilbert's package over the Hutchinson Salt Mine. Start a car.
That sounds interesting. Run it.
Ever wonder what it would be like to travel over 600 feet into the ground? Sounds scary, right? Well, come along with me to Stratica, and we'll dig deep into the history and lore of Hutchinson's own underground salt mine and museum.
This is an active salt mine. It was opened in 1923, so it's been going well over 90 years, and it's still producing salt, and there's plans for it to go at least another 93 years. There are about 150 miles of tunnels. If you were to take every one of them, nearly 1,000 mined out acres. The mine takes out about 1,000 tons of salt a day on a normal day of production, or about 500,000 tons a year.
Because of the conditions underground, the museum can store many relics, such as costumes and movie reels. But what you least expect to find are some of the events that take place down here.
We do a 5K underground. It's a mine run. It's really a fun run. It's not competitive. We can get over 500 people underground, and you actually have, usually it's a bike helmet and a light, and you actually run or walk through our course. We also have what we call Tour de Salt, and it takes essentially the same path as the 5K, but it's obviously on bicycles. Our first year, actually, we had a unicyclist, which was really interesting. He took the whole mine tour course on a unicycle, but they have hard hats and lights, and usually we make about 10 or 11 stops. It's not competitive, it's not a race, but a really cool thing about the Tour de Salt is that like I said, about 10 or 11 stops we make, and we talk about the history of the mine. So you get not only a cool bike ride, but you also get a little history as you go through the course. One of the things that we do here is a fundraiser 3 times a year. We have what's called Murder in the Mine. It's really cool. We bring up to 240 people underground. We have a couple, Joel and Erica. They come from Chicago, and they put on a 3-act whodunit murder mystery. So you come underground, and you can actually win a nice prize from Stradica if you can solve the mystery of whodunit.
Speaking of murder, some people say that this salt mine is haunted.
Well, what a lot of people want to know about our mine and underground, if there have been any deaths in the mine. There actually have been several, but a lot of people are really interested in that. Is the mine haunted? Fred Swepston. Fred was actually killed. He got between 2 locomotives that were dispatched coming at each other, was caught around a corner, so he was traumatically injured and killed. He didn't make the night. So there's a rumor that his ghost is still underground.
The museum has so much to offer, but still they find ways to improve the experience. And from what I hear, their next big idea is gonna be a blast.
Because everybody loves the powder man. Everybody loves a guy that gets to blow stuff up. So we're hoping soon, at some point, that we'll be able to simulate that for our guests in our blasting room.
In all, Stradica is a great place to go down under, without having to go to Australia.
We welcome visitors from all over the world. It's amazing how they can find their way into Hutchinson from New Zealand, Australia, South America, all 50 states. And we track all of that, and it's really incredible.
Well, I hope you enjoyed your tour of the Stradica salt mine. I know I did. And you know, I think I should take a sample home.
We'll be right back after this short message. Stay tuned for the rest of the Campus Edge.
Looks like it's done.
Don't let salmonella get funky with your chicken. On average, 1 in 6 Americans will get a foodborne illness this year. You can't see these microbes, but they might be there. So learn the right temperature to cook each type of meat. Keep your family safe at foodsafety.gov.
Well, now you've got some weekend plans.
Yeah. Man, all this talk about plans has me excited about spring break. I'm going up to Nebraska for the State Corn Festival.
That sounds interesting.
Oh, trust me, it is.
Well, if for whatever reason you need some more interesting plans, I know that Gannon Curley made an interesting piece about students and their spring break trips. Roll the package.
This is Campus Edge reporter Gannon Cornley, and today we're going to explore where Butler students go for spring break trips.
Jake Sire. I'm going to Padre Island off of Texas. I've gone to Mexico is probably the furthest I've gone. Just hang out on the beach, I guess. Just kind of hanging out with all my friends.
Fontes Davis. This spring break, I will be planning to go on a visit to West Virginia. What I tend to do is go on a tour of the school, visit the football facilities, and just have a bond with all the coaches and players. No, I've never been to West Virginia before, so it's going to be a good experience. I've been to Georgia, so that's probably the farthest I've been from home, and that's kind of around the same area as West Virginia. So.
South Padre. I have once in the winter.
I went when I was like 15, but it was really boring because I was with a parent and another friend.
But it was fun. I mean, and I've heard it's going to be a blast during spring break, and there's a lot of people that are going to go. The only spring break trip I've ever taken, I actually don't think I've ever been anywhere for spring break except for this year.
Probably Arizona a few years ago with my friend, and it was an 18-hour drive, and we drove the whole way, so.
We're actually going with a group of 12. We're all going to fit in one hotel room, so we'll see how that goes.
Charles Chaney. Well, if the women's team doesn't make nationals or the men's don't, we're going to New York City. We like to go up there quite a bit. We're going to go up watch Hamilton. We went up over the summer. We watched it a couple of times. We're going to go watch it again. New York City's great. I moved up there on a whim after the first college I went to and left. We moved up New York City. I moved up and just kind of worked at a bowling alley, which was 24 hours in Harlem. Working for Yahoo Sports, I've covered the Olympics and all kinds of stuff. Like I was in Brazil, been to London, China, all kinds of places. Yeah, I mean, it's a city that never sleeps, and I don't ever sleep, so it kind of works out.
Wow, those are some interesting stories. Today we looked at where Butler students are going to go for spring break. Maybe this will give you an idea for next year.
Well, any new ideas for your spring break?
Listen, nothing can beat Corn Fest. I always win the corn cob eating competition, and I've got to defend my title this year.
If I can't break you off that, you could at least get some good music into your life.
What's wrong with my reggae-inspired banjo music?
Everything? Up next is Dusty Banshee speaks about the world of Wichita's DJs.
Today, we're here visiting some local DJs, from club DJs, wedding DJs, and even some radio DJs. First up, we're here at an undisclosed location for a little get-together with some of the local DJs here in Wichita, Kansas. This year will be 15 years that I've been DJing, so kind of a long time. It's kind of crazy. I really like connecting with crowds in person. I get instant gratification from the reaction that I get from the crowds when I play, and that's really what drives me. So at this point in my career, I have no intention of moving to an on-air personality, but you never know what tomorrow, next week, next year might bring.
Hello, Butler students. I've been a bartender or waitress for like most of my life, so I was like, I can talk, I can do that. So I did, and as I was leaving that night, this one guy came up to me and he was like, have you ever thought about being in radio? I said, no, not at all. Why? I was like, well, you should think about it. So I applied and ended up getting a very, very, very small part-time job. I mean, I think it was 6 hours once a week, and in the beginning, I had to beg, I mean literally beg, to get hired because I had no experience at all. I wish I would have known more about just the technology side of it. I really thought it was going to be like in the movies where there's a record player and a guy chain smoking and, you know, like you pick these things, and I really didn't understand how to run the board. I didn't understand, you know, everything that went into making promos and doing commercials and just knowing the levels of each board, and, you know, all that seemed so insane to me. So I wish I would have had picked up a little bit of that knowledge just to be more tech savvy in what we do.
For BCTV Channel 20, I'm Dusty Vancy, signing off.
The Campus Edge will be right back. In the meantime, enjoy this short commercial break.
With Butler, Cameron's Barbershop Quartet sang their way to 8 in the world while singing the praises of one powerful education. He's found the power to record 3 CDs and write more than 120 songs, including the one song inspired by his time at Butler, playing in the background now. All this personalized to around 14 in each class, and that's much better than sitting in the 23rd row of a 600-seat auditorium. Cameron found his passion in music. He discovered his power at Butler. How will power change you?
We've had a number of lighthearted pieces on our program. However, the next piece is over a much more serious topic.
It's something we've all heard of, but are possibly too scared to talk about.
But that's not an excuse. Our next piece is by Anita Martinez and talks about suicide prevention. Let's all take a look.
I'm Campus Edge reporter Anita Martinez, and today we're going to be taking a look at suicide, suicide rates, suicide prevention, and suicide awareness. We're also going to be talking with somebody who's lost somebody that they loved to suicide. Take a look with me.
I think people commit suicide because they feel like there's no other way to run away from their problems. And also, sometimes you just feel like the world is pretty heavy. You just feel like you don't want to be alive anymore, which it's sad, but when you are not conscious of the things that are going on with your life, I feel like that's pretty easy to fall into. It's a pretty easy state to just fall into.
Each year, 44,193 Americans die by suicide. This rate actually means that on average,
121 Americans die by suicide every single day.
I think what will take the rates down of suicide with people our age is education. To talk about the situation, to let people know that mental health is important.
In order to lessen suicide rates, I think it'd help in order to have more social events or like community events that more kids can relate to.
Some websites you can go to for more information on suicide prevention and awareness are shown on the screen now. Education could lower the rates of suicide in the U.S. exponentially.
If someone came to me and told me that they are trying to attempt suicide or they're thinking about it, I would probably talk to them and ask them what the problem is and offer them some help. Maybe a therapist number or something like that. Myself, I've been to therapy before, so I do know some people out there that can gladly give some other people some help. So I guess that's what I would do.
I think, again, that distraction is needed in order for people because people who commit suicide, that is a lifestyle. That's not a single instance.
The first thing that I would do is if I started feeling suicidal, would be realize my problem. I would probably start analyzing what's going on in my life and why am I feeling that way, because I usually am pretty conscious of my feelings and I try to analyze everything. And then I would go and talk to someone that can offer me some help.
I've never been on the verge of suicide, but I think everyone has had suicidal thoughts, and I've had those.
Life's worth it. My word of advice is life is worth it. It'll always be. Usually whenever we are suicidal, we don't think about the damages that we can cause in our surroundings. But I don't think it's worth it. There's a lot to live for.
If you're feeling suicidal most of the time, this is due to my experience, you're just going through a rough phase in your life. And it'll be okay. I know that's something that what everybody says, that it'll be okay, just tough it through, because I know it's hard right now, so I'm not trying to say that what you're going through isn't hard. Just know that whatever you're working through and how hard it is only equals in the amount of happiness that's at the end of the road, because all that work is being put to good use, I promise you. The reason why I say this is obviously I've gone through depression, and I've gone through that road, and at the end of the road, I found something meaningful. And whether that meaningful thing be like working at a retail store, just like talking to customers, going to college, helping out kids, or even just going on a random trip every few months or something to Kansas City. Whatever that need to be, you just need to find that thing. And at first, obviously, that's going to be hard because the world is intimidating, but I believe you can do it.
Today we took a look at suicide prevention and suicide rates in the United States. This is a matter that's very dear to me and dear to the community because every day we're losing children and young adults to suicide. If you or somebody you know is going through depression or some other mental illness and needs to be heard, please feel free to reach out. Reach out to a school counselor, a therapist, a loved one, or even a stranger that you met. That's all for today. I'm Nia Martinez.
Now that about wraps up this week's Campus Edge.
We saw how not to let life get the better of you and how to balance your schedule.
We saw a bunch of fun things to do in the community, like the Hutchinson Salt Mine, the Augusta Historical Theater,
the Wichita DJ scene, and fun things to do around spring break.
as well as a suicide prevention piece.
Well, Ed, I think we found our theme for this episode.
That's right. Take everything in stride and don't let yourself get too stressed out.
If you want to see this episode again, check out the reruns weekdays at 11 a.m. or last week's show at 6:30 p.m. on VCTV Channel 20.
Or you can check them all out on our YouTube channel.
This has been
The Campus Edge.